All right, YouTube. Wikileaks has been posting cryptic tweets lately regarding this Vault 7, and nobody's really quite sure what it pertains to. It's really a lot of guesswork because Wikileaks, while it promotes transparency, it's dumping secretive documents, stuff that shows corruption in governments and so forth, that those governments and other groups would not generally want to be public, like looking at early drafts of the TPP. WikiLeaks is fucking instrumental in getting public opinion against what would have been a terrible so-called trade deal, because nobody knew anything about it till the drafts were being dumped. It was WikiLeaks largely that did that. WikiLeaks cracked wide open the Clinton campaign, even though they've made it clear, no, we're not Trump fans, we dump stuff on him, but he's just got better security. He's less inept. He may be just as corrupt, but he's less inept than the DNC. And so there's not a whole fucking lot we can do about it. Somebody please throw us a bone here. And I think that's the truth. Some people thought they were compromised, and they're like, oh, they're partnered with Putin, and Trump is partnered with Putin, and so it's part of a conspiracy. I don't think that. I just think that he's better at security, honestly. I think that's the best explanation. Nobody managed to fish one of his lowly employees within his campaign the way they did Hillary Clinton's people, which is like, it's the most hilarious way to get your presidential campaign derailed. Some lowly employee, some mid-level employee or something, was looking up porn and took a phishing link and compromised the whole system because it was poorly guarded. That's what happened. But with the Vault 7 stuff, they keep posting these like cryptic pictures. They're like, oh, what is Vault 7? Where is Vault 7? Why is Vault 7? Who is Vault 7? Stuff like that. Some people have suggested that it has something to do with they're trying to pressure the FBI. Like the FBI begged them not to release, some slew of documents while they're doing the Clinton crap. The next vault, FBI vault up in line on Clinton to be dumped would be literally called Vault 7. There are 6 that have been released apparently, and the next one's the 7th. So they're thinking maybe WikiLeaks is getting impatient, holding them to their end of the bargain and just sort of pushing them along, keeping them moving so that they don't fucking wait too long. You've got Jeff Sessions and so forth in there. If Clinton really is as corrupt as I imagine she is, and if people around her are as inept as they've proven themselves to be, there's at least the possibility she ends up getting prosecuted. I'm not going to hold my breath. It's like all throughout the campaign, when people were talking about Hillary's corrupt, people around her don't know what they're doing, and so she's probably exposed herself. She's probably going to jail. I said no. I said don't expect that to happen. There's a remote chance. And for a very brief shining moment, it looked like Comey might actually go for the jugular, say enough of this. We've got to do something about the fact that this is going on. But I never expected beforehand or after that anything was going to come of it. I didn't know whether they'd exonerate her at all, but what Comey did was sort of a half-assed approach. He said, well, we're just not going to seek to prosecute. Yeah, she lied here, she lied there, classified info was sent, but she wasn't trying to do anything criminal. Not that the FBI ever fucking cared about that in any other case in American history. So we're just going to let her off. To the point other people now blamed for similar things are trying to invent a Clinton defense and say, well, there's a precedent now. You let Clinton go for doing, far worse than what our client, the defendant has done in some random case. And they haven't made inroads doing that so far, but eventually you're going to have to acknowledge that a precedent, legally speaking, was sent for a bureau not to be able to prosecute somebody simply because there was no essence of willful wrongdoing. They weren't trying to break the law. They either were ignorant of what the law was, which has never been an excuse within U.S. legal system, or they knew that they were doing something shifty, but they weren't aiding any enemy. They were just dicking off, essentially. But there are other possibilities, too. And they range from the more sensible to the more fringe. Another thing people have suggested is, WikiLeaks has documents proving climate change is not made by man, that there's a war coming, that there's documents on Russia or China or something showing long-term strategic planning for an invasion of the U.S. That would never happen, but like an attack on the United States, or that it involves ISIS, the Syrian war, something shifty Obama did. Those are all more or less sane explanations. Then you get more into like the fringe, like the beyond Alex Jones fringe of, oh, it has something to do with Antarctica, has something to do with an upcoming doomsday. An asteroid is coming. We can't see it because it's like flying behind the sun or something like that. It's going to hit us, and the elites are going down to Antarctica to sit in their bunkers to wait out Armageddon, and so forth. I would hazard a guess that the chance that that's the explanation for WikiLeaks tweets is fairly low. I prefer the more simplistic explanation. I think the Clinton explanation is most likely, because even the term fits what we would be seeing. The next vault to be released is Vault 7, if there is another vault on Clinton's crimes and wrongdoing. So that would fit. It would make sense in a verbal sense, not just a common sense way. But then there are, maybe it's something on Trump. Maybe it is the existence of some doomsday bunker. Maybe what we're looking at is like the revelation of an old conspiracy. Oh yeah, the government maintained a massive bunker during the Cold War, fully stocked and everything, out in some mountain somewhere, and its active plan was to start a nuclear war for a while, and then everyone retreated in, Russia gets destroyed, then they come out and repopulate, and here's their papers, here's like the breeding program or something. Maybe. Look at Operation Northwoods or something like that. Stranger things have been suggested at different times by U.S. Military, U.S. bureaus, the government itself. It's possible, but I think the Clinton explanation is perhaps the most likely and the most rational. It's also possible that they're just generating interest because they got something totally unrelated to talk about. Or maybe they're being paid by Bethesda. Maybe Fallout 5 is going to be coming. It's going to be announced sooner rather than later, and Bethesda's like, oh, this would be an interesting way to market the game. Who knows? And they said, oh, we'll contribute $1 million towards Julian Assange's defense fund, but just post some cryptic shit about vaults on here as a precursor. Let's call it Vault 7 because that's where the next protagonist comes from or something. Maybe. Again, it's a remote chance, but one can dream. One can dream that Fallout 5 is right around the corner or something. There's a lot of people had a problem with Fallout 4 for some reason. I don't know. I was watching gameplay videos. It looked pretty good to me, other than maybe a little small. But, I got totally off topic there. I know it doesn't actually have anything to do with Bethesda Softworks. I think the Clinton explanation is probably the one that we're looking at. I think what we're seeing is WikiLeaks is just trying to keep the FBI moving by keeping them on their toes. Because they got a hell of a lot of material that they probably haven't even dumped like 10% of the material that they've actually got that they could dump at any given time. So they've got a lot of leverage, sort of unofficially speaking, over a lot of governments. Not just the U.S. government. A lot of people, the Democratic Party has made a big stink about them. Oh, they're going after the U.S. government. They're going after the Democratic Party. They were dumping all sorts of stuff on the W days when W was in office, and you used to hail them as heroes. They've dumped things on Russia. They've dumped material on China. They've dumped things that involve multiple nations in collaboration, like the TPP. And you never really had a problem with that until they started dumping Clinton stuff. But the thing is, they got Clinton's stuff because she was inept. Her staffers didn't apparently know anything about computers. They were using servers. They were communicating with each other electronically without the benefit of safeguarding their correspondence. That's why all of that stuff came to light, all the Podesta leaks and so forth. And Podesta's a slimy character, and I've said that before. I'd say worse about him if he didn't have a penchant for attempting to make legal complaints against people, because he's not technically, he's not a celebrity. It's not like, Trump. I can say Trump is a scuzzwad if I want to. And, he can't actually do anything about that. He's an actual politician. Podesta is just a staffer. He's like an advisor. A little bit of a different threshold. Some privacy complaint crap. And it shouldn't be this way, but it does. In the U.S. and Europe, has to do with notoriety. How notable a person is. Like, the more notable they are, the less protection they potentially get. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know what the legal recourse is for such things. I don't know how that was set up. It doesn't make much sense to me. I suppose it was to protect the activities of the press. It seems to have done a fairly piss-poor job, though, in many cases. Meanwhile, we've got Clinton's documents being dumped by the tens of thousands of pages all over the place by WikiLeaks. And it was funny. It was funny to watch their stumbling response, because I think They were self-assured in thinking that their systems were private and safeguarded, and they didn't realize what was going on. And then they killed, almost certainly, Seth Rich. I believe he was killed by the DNC. I believe that that was an assassination. Nothing else, to me, makes any sense in that case. I think Seth Rich dumped the documents, got killed. WikiLeaks said, oh, well, if they're going to play hardball, we're just going to start dumping this all, and we're going to time it. Really put the screws to them. Oh, yeah, and Clinton, by the way, was going to have, Assange droned. I think it was when he was still in Sweden at the time. So, yeah, I think we have a vested interest in taking her campaign down lest she actually carry through with this in a more official capacity. Well, it just makes sense. As for Vault 7, it's probably Clinton-related. They're still going to go after Clinton. They'd go after Trump if they had more material. But Trump, apparently, surrounds himself with people who are not totally electronically inept. Trump just calls it the cyber. So I'm not sure how much he knows about computer systems. But somebody around him obviously does, because his material's not being dumped. I don't think that was for political reasons. I think WikiLeaks would have reveled in being able to dump a bunch of embarrassing Trump stuff. It would have been hilarious. Because I can imagine that, yeah, there's probably some corruption there. There's probably all sorts of weird stories there. But if you don't have the info, you can't dump it. WikiLeaks doesn't crack into people's servers itself. It relies upon outside parties to give them stuff to dump. That's what they've always done. So sort of the Manning and Snowden side of things as opposed to the Assange side. So I think it's interesting. But we'll wait and see. I'm sure WikiLeaks will reveal all in due time if it's necessary to do so. If it's something significant, yeah, they'll do that. That's about all. Peace out.